So it's a great pleasure for me to welcome today's speakers. Last year, as part of ongoing conversations with particularly faculty that are part of the Mitchell Center, there are about 60 faculty at this university are members of the Mitchell Center from all over campus, I think every college, and they came together to do some brainstorming about what we should be doing, where we should be headed. And one of the really fun things for me, kind of watching all of that going on, was that an interdisciplinary group of faculty began brainstorming about ways to build a university-wide network that could create more opportunities for students that are interested in things like sustainability, conservation, climate change, public health, and other complex challenges. And after that meeting, they did some more thinking. We created a program where they were awarded a seed grant to start thinking about this some more. I had the pleasure of joining some of those meetings and could see that there were a lot of great ideas and a lot of important goals that could be achieved if we kept this thing going. And so I've been looking forward to hearing about their progress. What's always true of this kind of work is that when you bring together people with different kinds of expertise, different interests, a lot of good things happen. And this group is no exception. I am sure I don't know everybody that's been involved to date, but let me just mention a few that I think you're going to hear from. I don't know exactly how they're going to squeeze it all in, but students like Charlie Cooper, Shaylin Huber, and Dominique Despirito, recent students who stayed involved, faculty like Francois Amar, Christine Vidal, Don Beat, Megan Carter, and many others. Dan Dixon is here somewhere, who's been involved, and Tim Waring years ago, helping to get a lot of this rolling. So their talk, the Maine Sustainability Hub, Building a Sustainability Community at UMaine. Please welcome them to the Mitchell Center.
Thanks, David. So I'm Francois Amar, and I guess I'll sort of be directing traffic a little bit. We have a lot of speakers, as you can see. The folks on the top lines in bold are here today and help, or on Zoom helping to present this material. But there's also others who couldn't be here today, and we wanted to acknowledge their work, and they've been real contributors, so we didn't want to forget about them. We have a bunch of people going to be coming up as we change through slides, and the first slide is really the first non-title slide. How that works. Nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. How do I get it to advance? I click there. Can I use the keyboard?
Yes, keyboard. Yes, you should be.
Okay, there we go. So there we go. So so I wanted to point out that David really spoke about the first slide already. I wanted to mention that David had convened a bunch of faculty back about a year and a half ago now, almost 2 years ago now, to talk about these issues, that where should Mitchell Center go next, and how, and especially what came out of that was the idea that we would do more to enhance student engagement and student opportunities here on the campus. Two teams came out of that. The first team was focusing mostly on graduate stuff, and I won't name all the people there, but they've been moving along, including the inaugural internships program that started last spring and summer. And there was a talk by Jessica a few weeks ago about this. And then the other one was to develop what we were calling at that time a student hub for undergraduates. We called it SHU. We finally decided that SHU, the focus on undergraduates was important, but not exclusive. So we changed the name to MeSH, and we felt that would be a little more inclusive.
Are you saying that the SHU didn't fit?
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, David. Yeah, and we can talk about the Phillies later. Okay. So we did get some funding from the Mitchell Center to get started on this. And since May or June of 2021, we've been pulling together a number of folks, again, faculty, staff, and students to figure out what should this look like, what should it include, and what's important. So the talk is organized around this hub, and the four areas that we feel are important to bring together in this one hub are academics and research, existing student organizations, and including a web presence that ties this all together. Other UMaine sustainability efforts that are ongoing, for example, in facilities or in other areas of campus that are really impacting campus life directly. And finally, community engagement. How do we leverage what we're doing here at the university to connect with the community through any and all of these other areas? So that's that. So look for this logo on all the slides, and we'll just change which one we're highlighting to tell you where we are. Basically, that's our scheme. I did want to, because the acknowledgements always sort of get left to the end. I did want to start off by acknowledging the support of the Mitchell Center through the seed grant and some further funding, and in particular David's total support of this project over the last year and a half. Ruth and Carol have been invaluable, including with the web stuff that we'll talk about a little bit later. Many Mitchell Center colleagues have been in meetings and planning and brainstorming. And then these other offices have also been really instrumental in helping us think about how do we move forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the academics and research side. First of all, our goals here are really fourfold with some sub goals, but perhaps the overarching idea is how do we enhance the 4+, and by plus I mean after you graduate or become a grad student, year arc of academic work in sustainability for students. Some examples that we'll talk a little bit more about is a first-year RLE course that actually I offered a year ago in 2021. So there's a sort of starting point for this 4-year arc. And then there's research project opportunities and other courses. We'll talk a little bit about this interdisciplinary minor. Don will come up in a little bit and talk about that. And then into internships, other research opportunities, and capstone courses. We're interested in increasing student-faculty interactions on these kinds of issues, hopefully finding funding for work for students to get involved with your research groups or other research groups on campus or around the state. And in general, contribute to the ferment about sustainability on campus. So, you know, I also realized I didn't, at the beginning, jumped right in. I didn't really say who I am. So let me just say who I am. I'm Francois Amar, and I'm a professor of chemistry here at the University of Maine and also a member of the Mitchell Center. So I'm going to ask Don to come up and talk about the environmental ethics minor, which is a great example of the sort of interdisciplinary academic work that can happen with sustainability.
Hey everyone, I'm Don Beef from the Department of Philosophy, and I work mostly in environmental ethics, but I can ask deep and annoying questions about almost anything if you're curious. I'm here to talk about environmental ethics. Ethics is about the way life should be, kind of like the state of Maine, but that's where everyone disagrees. And so ethics is about providing the theoretical principles to help form a vision and resolve discussions about the way life should be. So we're not just studying the world as it is, like we might be doing in the sciences, but reflecting on the normative questions about what we should do with that knowledge. And I think any argument we're going to make about climate change that is going to have those scientific and moral premises in it. In keeping with the spirit of the MeSH work we're doing, the environmental ethics minor is a new minor that's designed to develop sustainability interdisciplinary education across the 4-year arc of education and for undergraduates. It starts with philosophy classes at the 100-year level on life, technology, and evolution. And soon there will be another class coming about outdoor learning, field philosophy, and sustainability education. There are courses in environmental ethics leading all the way up to environmental justice. The issues covered in those philosophy classes are not just theoretical. We talk about environmental issues from the Penobscot River to Penobscot Nation to issues concerning the state of Maine and internationally. And as you can see here, the minor has some theoretical study. There's one elective course that you would take in political philosophy or philosophy of law and jurisprudence or ethics. There are 2 elective classes in philosophy, but then there's some other room to take classes throughout really almost every college unit in the university. So I think of ethics in a really big way. I think in an inclusive way. I think most people are already thinking ethically. They just might sometimes need a little bit of help in formalizing or getting clear about those arguments and commitments. And with that spirit in mind, this minor includes elective courses from anthropology, biology, Native American studies, engineering, communications, economics, ecology, and you can see the list goes on. A lot of those classes can be double counted. It's an easy minor to get. And often special topics classes in sustainability. I know they come up all the time. They can count toward this minor in consultation with me in the philosophy department. If you're interested in this, I'm happy to talk to you about it. It will be something that's coming up in the context of MeSH. If you're someone who's interested philosophically, this is how I started, but don't really have the bandwidth or electives to talk about philosophy or minor in something. We're having meetings at MeSH. We have philosophical workshops. I host philosophy forest walks. We just did a campus sustainability tour. So there'll be ways to get in touch with some philosophical education on campus, even if you're taking already 7 classes a semester and can't possibly fathom some new stuff. So it's not only a curricular project. The discussions about ethics are going on the sidelines, and that will be part of MeSH and our academic work that we're doing. So maybe some of you are interested. My contact info is here, and I'm always around to talk about these courses or the issues. I think next we have some discussion of our RLE from Charlie. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Don. Yes, so I'm Charlie Cooper. I am a junior ecology and environmental sciences student in the Honors College here at UMaine. I was formerly the president of Divest UMS, now known as UMaine Climate Justice, and I am currently the treasurer of Permaculture and Gardening Club. And so that's just some of my sustainability involvements here on campus. Initially, I was part of some of the student brainstorming sessions for formerly SHU, now MeSH, about what we wanted from that. And I also took RLA 150 with Francois last fall. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. So this was a course that really introduced people to what it's like to conduct research at the university and what sort of factors we should consider. So as you know, someone who is interested in doing research in the field of sustainability, it was really helpful for me to have that map and that framework kind of laid out early on, especially in my field specifically. And so we did things like figure out how to establish a meaningful research question, how to create a methodology that would be effective, looking at how to engage stakeholders in your various questions. So I was a part of the CNP corridor sustainability group. And so that, you know, what that looked like was talking with the indigenous peoples in the area. We didn't actually do this, but brainstorming that we would do this, where the corridor would be, talking to people who would receive that power, etc. And then also just coming up with reasonable timelines and budgets for this sort of thing. And so, I mean, personally, that was really helpful as a early on student to be able to get some of that framework before I really delve into a lot of my specific college interests. So yeah, let me
There's a keyboard right
boom. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about MeSH and its involvement with student organizations and how that's been facilitated and brainstormed. So some of the goals that we initially were talking about with MeSH were to promote connections between students and student organizations, as well as between students and research that's relevant to what their student organization is doing, as well as facilitate connections between funding opportunities. And so, yeah, sharing information between clubs is a big goal. Volunteer opportunities sometimes can get lost in emails and whatnot. And so one way we're going to try to facilitate that connection was through the Enviro Club Hub Slack, which is a currently active Slack channel for these students. I believe these are the only student groups in it at the moment. SEED, UMaine Climate Action, Green Team, Permaculture Club. And that's really a space that came out of these MeSH conversations that serves as a hub for planning events so that we don't have overlap. Like that was kind of a concern with Green Week last year because we didn't want to cover the same topics as other clubs when we were planning to host events and schedule things on the same day. And so that's really a place where those things can be straightened out, as well as, yeah, just connecting about what people want to do, what opportunities there are, etc. And yeah, leveraging student enthusiasm about sustainability. Something really helpful that came out of these MeSH conversations was the access to HAM microgrants to extend Earth Week discussions. So that happened with they've hosted a Wilson Center conversation about climate justice. Maybe someone can correct me if the topic was wrong there. But that was a excellent way in which that was engaged with. And then also for me personally, Divest UMS utilized a hand grant for one of our Earth Week events, which I will be talking more about right now. So yeah, hand grant, very successful. We're connecting Divest UMS to this funding. So we used it to fund an event called Divest Fest, which was an Earth Week event to celebrate community while raising awareness for climate justice and divestment as a concept. And so what we had were musical acts, speakers on the topic of fossil fuel divestment and climate justice more broadly. And we really just tried to bring people together and facilitate some conversations while having fun and enjoying the spring. And so the role of the HAM grant in that was really, really helpful for us because we were an organization that didn't have any funding. We didn't have any desire to become affiliated with student government because we didn't want to be limited in what we could do in any way, which is like not a diss on student government or anything, but we just wanted to be like not affiliated with anything. And so the HAM grant was able to provide food for this event. I don't know about you folks, but I can't really think about big esoteric topics like climate justice if I'm hungry. So that was a really helpful thing. And yeah, and so I had never applied for a grant. Sophomore in college, I just didn't really, the opportunity hadn't come along yet. And so it was really helpful to have the connections through MeSH to learn how to apply for this grant and learn what goes into that and get feedback throughout that process. And so MeSH was really effective in connecting us to that funding and executing, and it was just a really helpful thing as a student organizer in this field. And so now I'm going to pass it on to Shaylin to talk a little bit about the web aspect of MeSH, which is currently kind of the center focus. And yeah, here you go, Shaylin.
All right, thank you. So I'm a recent graduate. I graduated with a degree in environmental science and a minor in climate science last spring. And I've been helping with a lot of the web efforts for MeSH. And so I noticed for years as a student that a lot of UMaine sites were very difficult to navigate, and certain information that I needed or would have made the stuff I was trying to do a lot easier was just not easy to find or, you know, it was in a weird place, or you had to go to 3 different places. And so that's something that I noticed that a lot of people were frustrated with. And so we had the idea of creating kind of a sustainability information hub of the UMaine system. So just compiling a lot of important information that could be useful for sustainability endeavors or stuff that people would need to do a lot of different things. And so some of the stuff that I've compiled is documents related to the contact information and info about different UMaine offices. I mean, we have many research offices that I didn't know about until I started doing this research, and links to their websites and just how to get in contact with them. List of sustainability related courses, what's offered, and organizations. So if someone wants to get involved, here, list of clubs, everything related to sustainability. Also, just general information about sustainability and sustainability science, stuff like that, just the information behind those larger topics, just creating a resource where people can go to like a quick look up, oh, you know, I want to know about wind energy or solar farms or community solar, just quick, you know, look up, and then you have resources. And also a compilation of research done at the university by both students and the university itself, whether that's undergraduate, graduate, or, you know, research done by professors, and just having it all kind of be in one place and easy to access. Can we go over one slide?
We'll try to do that. Never tell. There we are.
Okay, thank you. So when it's completed and all of this information is, you know, in one place, and we have all the links going out to the other websites, and it's just a stopping point to find out maybe where you need to go or some quick information, it's going to be very helpful to a lot of different students, a lot of the environmental organizations on campus, you know, clubs, departments, and it's just going to be make things a little more accessible for everyone. And that's going to make it easier and less confusing for people who are trying to do first-time research, or maybe even just looking up stuff for a class project, or trying to launch a very serious research project for the capstone or the thesis. So I'm pretty proud of what we're doing right now. The pictures over here are actually logos that were designed by Nara, haven't been finalized, but it's just another example of the type of work that we've been doing. And at the bottom, you can see there is the brand new MeSH email. Right, back to you guys.
Hey, thank you. So we're going to move to our third bullet here, and I'll let you move it along.
Hi, my name is Megan Carter, and I am an employee of Auxiliary Enterprises. So I'm actually the coordinator for the Office of Green Campus Initiative. And I'm here to talk about UMaine sustainability efforts in general. The University of Maine's commitment to sustainability has and continues to be very strong. We monitor our inputs, we track our outputs, and we are constantly striving towards reducing our carbon footprint. UMaine completed the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System, or STARS report, in 2019, earning a STARS Silver rating. And this is based on an extensive list of UMaine sustainability initiatives addressing the environmental, social, and economic dimensions of sustainability. And I've included a number of highlights here, but this is in no way an exhaustive list. Here are a few more, and I have a lot of information here, but because I work in auxiliaries, and therefore my expertise is more in auxiliaries, I've chosen to kind of touch on a few of the initiatives involved in our specific department. So I'm really proud of our UMaine dining department, and they're very deeply committed to working towards a more sustainable future. They initially had a goal of sourcing 20% of our food here at UMaine locally by the year 2020. Once they achieved that before 2020, they then created a brand new goal, which was sourcing 25% of our food locally by the year 2025. And I'm actually really proud to say that as of July of this year, we're already over 26% of our food being sourced locally. So that's from, numerous Maine farms and 64 local businesses. And this is something that we are, continuously trying to think about and create new innovative ways to address this goal. Another way that we address sustainability within our dining services is with composting. So we have an actual compost facility here on the UMaine campus, and we compost close to 100% of our pre-consumer waste. So pre-consumer is kind of the food scraps that you create while you're preparing the food in our dining halls. And we collect that food and it gets composted here on campus. And then we use that compost around campus. So when you see the beautiful flower beds on campus, it's because of the compost that we create here on campus. And another aspect to address food waste here is another program that I'm very excited about. And that is our food recovery system that we have in place. So we actually collaborate with the UMaine Dining, my office, which is Green Campus Initiative, and we also collaborate with the Black Bear Exchange, which is our on-campus food pantry here at UMaine. And what we do is we coordinate with the 3 different offices. We collect food from the dining halls every Friday, food that would otherwise go to waste for whatever reason. So we collect all that food from our dining halls, we transport it to the Black Bear Exchange, where then it's repackaged into individual portions and then available to any university, any individual with an university affiliation, then can come and get a delicious, nutritious meal. And one of the things that I'm really excited about this program, and one of the reasons why I'm excited about MeSH, is because it's the perfect example of how this is a sort of program that is tried and tried and tried in the past. And it wasn't really fully successful until we really valued the collaboration both between multiple departments here at UMaine. So this isn't just one person or one department taking this on, but it's a collaboration between dining, between GCI and our Black Bear Exchange. Thinking about collaboration, that brings us to our next topic, which is our community engagement.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Dominique DeSpirito. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Maine. My mask was stuck on my glasses, sorry. And I graduated this past May and have still been involved. I'm now serving as the Lead for America AmeriCorps member at the Maine DEP. And during my time here, I was involved with Green Campus Initiative for a little bit and did my thesis on organic space. And I just, if MeSH existed while I was an undergraduate student, things would have been a lot easier in a lot of ways. Not that it was terrible by any means, but instead of a lot of separate opportunities that you had to make connections and relationships to figure out, there could be one space where people who maybe didn't start off as an ecology and environmental science major like I did could actually access the opportunities. So I just have one slide for you guys today to talk about kind of the community engagement examples that MeSH could provide that hub for. MeSH really to me is an opportunity to connect students to each other, groups that maybe wouldn't normally interact and kind of have developed synergies between them, but also connect students to off-campus opportunities. I'm thinking of like the Orono Community Garden, the Wilson Center, things like that that might not be super visible. And a couple examples of that, of what that could look like, is leading to the design and implementation of stakeholder-driven projects. So I've worked on a couple stakeholder survey research projects and other like research-driven efforts that having, a website that I know that community members are keeping an eye on would be super helpful. If you're looking at like a database survey for some research, being able to have a link on this website where students can access it and take it would really help those sorts of efforts. But also, I'm thinking SEED piloted a survey last year along with 3 other clubs looking at public transportation and what UMaine students want out of public transportation in terms of improvements or what their thoughts are. Do they know how to use it? Things like that. And that would have been greatly benefited by a central hub. Another one is gathering community members for town halls and public programs. One of the events that MeSH held last year during Earth Week was an After Earth Day talk with a bunch of panelists at the Wilson Center. And being able to advertise that, get that visibility, and also potentially get to reach to more people who might be panelists and perspectives that aren't traditionally represented because they're not on campus. And then the other would be, as I mentioned before, connecting students with off-campus partners. So if a student, you know, I'm thinking of the trunk or treat that's coming up in Orno or something like that. Not that that's necessarily environmental, but just opportunities that unless like there's not a flyer for in your dorm hall. So having that central hub where they can go. And then these pictures are just from some examples. The one furthest to the right is window build that was piloted by that was run by Sharon Klein and a couple other faculty and community members on campus, actually in this room. They built window inserts for people in the area, and that was a huge volunteer effort and brought many community members both for the expertise and also to deliver it to people in need in the community. And that could be an example. The middle one is Take Pride in Acadia Day, which I can tell you for a fact, like several different clubs and organizations send volunteers to Take Pride in Acadia Day separately. And sometimes transportation there is an issue. Sometimes getting a critical mass of people is an issue. So instead, you know, it could just be a little blurb on the website that says, we're going to take Pride in Acadia Day, sign up if you're interested, and we could like bring all those people together. And then the one furthest to the left is the yard sard that just recently happened at the Wilson Center. It's they had a yard sale and redistribution to redirect material away from the landfill based on charitable donation. Or if you didn't have the ability to donate, you could just take things. And it's a great, you know, reuse kind of idea. And they could have used more volunteers. They got great visibility, but that's an example of another thing that could be on this website that students would benefit from. So lots of great opportunities, and can't wait to see the impact that this has. And I think I'm at the end of the presentation. So the last thing we have for you guys is to turn it over to you all with a question for the audience, and also to answer perhaps some questions that are coming in. How do you see students, faculty, and staff working with outside partners and collaborators? I think this is the point where we all come up, right? Yeah, cool.
Thanks, Dominique. So yeah, think about that question, perhaps as you formulate your own questions, and we'll come up and try to answer.
And I pretend to be Linda Silka, who always at this stage says, let's thank these guys for a great presentation. How you can.
Sure, and I also want to thank a couple of folks who couldn't be here with us today, and they contributed a lot to this project and to the presentation itself. I did notice a question in there on the chat about solar panels in Maine at UMaine, and saying that we may be behind some other campuses in the state. And so that's not a question that perhaps any of the team members here on the MeSH panel could answer, but because we're MeSH and we're connected to everything on campus, we know somebody who can answer the question. Who's here? Dan Dixon.
Hi. Yeah, so through the net energy.
You want to come up and
Why don't you come up?
and give us a brief answer, Dan?
Eventually, everybody can. Go.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so through the net energy billing program with the state LD 1711, we have partnered with Competitive Energy Services to purchase about 60% of our campus electrical use from renewable generation, which equates to about 28 million kilowatt hours per year. And we get to keep the RECs.
Thank you. knew we had the right person in the audience here for that question. So other questions from the audience, and I see there's some other questions up there as well.
Hi, Francois. Thank you all. This is very exciting. I'm so glad it's coming together in this way. It has already. You asked us a question about partnering with, with stakeholders outside of the campus. And I, sort of, this is something that I do with my undergraduate sustainability class, derive a lot of satisfaction from that. And a lot of student teams get some real hands-on experience. And one of the things that I like about that is that towards the end of the course of the semester, students feel like they've often made real connections, both with stakeholders and with other students there. And so one of the questions I have for you all is there a way, at the end of that course, I think a number of students would like to continue, and MeSH hasn't existed in the past in the same way. And so, what is the bet, maybe not the Enviro Club Hub Slack instance, or maybe it is, or what's the best way to be able to plug students who come out of that jazzed about stakeholder engaged research into, and connecting with other students, right, into MeSH? Is there, or maybe that's something you can think about, but if there's an answer, that'd be great, and I'll put it to use and we can keep that flow going.
Well, maybe I'll say one thing first, Tim, and that is that we've had lots of conversations with lots of students, lots of meetings, and invariably several students in these meetings say, we took Tim Waring's course and it was transformational. So thank you for that. But I don't think we necessarily have the answer to this question, but I think I'm glad you posed it. And so we can put it on our list of things to think about, and we can start to brainstorm about where does that kind of off-ramp, on-ramp, or whatever you want to call that transition from a class to further work, how does that get fit into the MeSH portfolio in some way? And maybe other folks have some ideas already about how to do that.
Excellent.
I haven't started working on this yet, but one of the things that we discussed for the website potentially was having a job board that people could, organizations could submit to. So say you want an intern working on your solar project or whatever, you could submit it to MeSH theoretically, and then, have listing of like vetted jobs or stuff on campus. So like having a place that's just where people can look for jobs and just list things like that, a community place, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Moving forward with that, just for a second, going along what Shaylin said, also creating an opportunity for volunteering as well. So, groups and stakeholders that are looking for some help. Sometimes it's like what Dominique said, maybe it's like the yard sale that needed a little bit, just some extra sets of hands, or maybe it's an organization that's looking for a long-term partner in some sort of way. But there also will be opportunities there for faculty members that are, maybe wanting to create some sort of project, but are still kind of struggling with what that project might look like, or wanting to open it up for their students to decide. They can kind of go to the MeSH site to have a list of maybe some local partners that are already interested in somehow getting acquainted more with the university.
We lose a lot of students at the end of it, like just when it's getting good for them off and they graduated on. And so some of the summer events are designed to kind of stretch that window out and keep some of that institutional memory, networking events, the online presence. Dominique's presence here is a kind of example of how we can have leaders who have already graduated and are gracious enough to still, help carry the torch to the next year, which wouldn't happen on its own.
Yeah. So my question is, having built and maintained the Office of Sustainability website since about 2013, I'm keenly aware of how much effort it takes to keep things up to date, especially when your site starts to grow. You start ending up with multiple tens of pages. approaching 100 pages, and then having someone go through every page, check the links, check it's up to date. And when you've got things like a job board, when you're listing classes, when you're listing events, all of these things change quickly and need to be monitored. So what are your plans for basically maintaining your site, keeping it up to date?
So Shailene, we have thought about this? We've talked about it?
Yes, so during the course of, I've been the one who's compiling a lot of the information we're going to put up into separate documents beforehand. And so part of what we were doing is just kind of keeping it simple. So really just saying, like, for example, the research offices that I was looking into, just the name of the office, contact information, what it is, what it does, and then a link to it, not a whole full-blown page. And the links are, to whatever page is to the main page of whatever office or department it's connected to. And that's in the hopes that, you'd be less likely to change a main page. So just keeping it as simple as possible and making it more of, a hub where you can just branch out into other places.
And in terms of keeping it up to date, so Shailene was mostly talking about kind of starting it and having that. But then keeping it up to date is kind of twofold. The first is having student employees. So we will have student employees, and their role, their entire role for the weekly duties is to essentially keep that website up to date. So that is in their job description, is checking those links, is making sure that events that come in, that jobs that come in, when jobs are done, that they're taken down, when events are over, that information is taken down. Part of their job is to make sure that stuff is up to date. And then to kind of monitor those student employees is the group of, faculty and staff that will meet probably right now it's looking at every other week, to again, kind of just make sure that we are on top of how things are changing and what needs to be updated, and how, employees are kind of seeing the changes in emails and communications.
Is it GCI funding those employees?
No, MeSH. MeSH through Mitchell Center.
Still working on it.
Yeah.
There's always issues there, but that's our vision, is to have some student employees who will work on keeping the web going. I'll also say that we plan to have a feedback loop, so that if someone comes to the website and notices something that is out of date, and they can give us feedback, and we can address it. We plan to do every fall a kind of thorough cleaning and updating of, say, student organization presidents, things like that. So we're trying to building in a sort of sequence of
Spring clean.
upgrading and cleaning of things, so that we keep things up to date. Yeah.
But Dan, I think
there are questions coming in on the chat too.
Okay, Dan, you bring up a good point that we wanted to again reiterate here, is that, part of the reason that we're all excited about this organization is that it is a collaboration, a network of lots of different people and organizations and backgrounds. And it's not all on one person or, one individual. That it is going to be the success of this is based on the collaboration of a lot of different offices and individuals across campus. But yeah, there are questions coming in. So I did see one question about compost. I can go ahead and start that question quickly. So some of it was addressed in the talk already, that we do have a compost facility. We do compost our pre-consumer waste. And in terms of expanding that program, as it is right now, we don't have the capacity within our compost facility. But also the biggest hindrance right now is employment. We just don't have the manpower. So we've been getting a lot of questions about, dining hall services and wanting to see changes. And the one thing that when students come to me and ask about that, I bring it back to them and I say, get your friends to apply. We just don't have the employees, student employees or full-time employees. We just don't have the manpower right now to expand a lot of our services. Don, can you help us with some of the questions?
Yeah,
Like, we can
sure.
see them.
Don, might need to come over to the mic.
There are two questions in general that involve how we might build upon interest from classes and groups already working on campus and borrow some of the human power from them. So one of them is about using potential volunteers in a computer science class to help maintain the website. So speaking of feedback loops, it seems like by putting some of these projects online, we might find collaborative opportunities where students are there already and courses willing to do some work and team with us. That seems like more than we expected. So that's already
There's a question there about composting and suggesting that investors use extra credit and things like that to expand the pool of resources in terms of student work and volunteerism. I guess if it's extra credit, it's semi-volunteerism. I'm not sure what you call it there, but I know if people are doing that. If they have suggestions about that, or is that something that MeSH should consider? How would we, as MeSH, work with people to offer that kind of? Is that something where we could say, here's this opportunity which needs some help? Maybe the faculty in different courses would say, yes, if you do these things and connect to the course goals, that would get you some credit.
So I think instead of, I will also mention along the same lines that maybe instead of answering that question directly, Lucy, then I will say, this is part of where exactly what Francois just said. This is where MeSH would come in to start this conversation. How can we, how could we change this instead of just having more, hired full-time employees? Is there anything we can do in the meantime to start that conversation with those of us in MeSH, and then the larger conversation with the rest of, auxiliaries and dining and facilities as well, because this again was a kind of collaboration project even to start the composting program.
So I have two questions. One's for Francois and one's for all of you. The one for Francois, you mentioned creating that there might be this possibility of creating funded research opportunities for students via Cougar, the Center for Undergraduate Research, is interested in sharing more of your thoughts about that. And then for all of you, I thought it was interesting the kind of point that, like, on the one hand, if you try to do this yourself, you just kind of run out of bandwidth. But I'm sure there would people say, well, having a big network is its own challenge to kind of coordinate and manage. And I just wonder what you guys have learned so far, either in this experience or others that you've had, or what you think are the ways to build on the strengths of that, but also make it manageable. So maybe Francois, I don't know if you want to go first.
I can say a couple words about it, and I think you and I actually had a conversation with the director of Cougar.
Right, but I thought maybe you'd want to say something to our audience.
Yeah.
So Cougar is the entity on campus that provides and manages research dollars for student work during the academic year and for some summer projects as well. And in our conversations with Cougar, they indicated they'd be quite interested in kind of putting some funding towards sustainably based research projects, right? So and then if we can find other funding that's not coming from Cougar itself, they would help us manage the process of applying for those funding and awarding those funds. So I think there's some real possibilities, again, of collaborating with entities on campus that actually are already very much into this game and do a good job with it. And then the second question was about the challenges of a network. True this. Definitely true. Yeah. I mean, it is a fair amount of work to keep these relationships going and to set up meetings and all of that. But what we've been finding, I think, I'll just speak for myself, the group of people we've got, and it's expanding. More students have said we're interested in joining and becoming part of more of the core group. has really sort of given a lot of extra energy to this group. And so I think when one person, let's say I have a very heavy teaching week, Megan steps up and that sort of thing. So we have ways of I think balancing the load. Yeah. Maybe you want to.
Yeah, along the same lines, the idea that, we have kind of a core group. So instead of it being this like large network that, with lots of different people, kind of having a core group of individuals that can coordinate the meetings and the students and employees. And it's nice having several people a part of that core group. So like what Francois said, that there is that division of labor. So sometimes, there might be times where you just have a tough semester or you have a tough week and you just can't get those things that you were going to get done. You can't get them done. And somebody else can step up and do that. Or someone else can say, hey, we need to schedule this meeting. Let's go ahead and get that done. Or did you send that email? And be like, thought I did. I totally didn't. Thanks for reminding me. So that was kind of checks and balances as well.
On a related note, I kind of totally underestimated networks in general, people to people, knowing that person works on compost, that person would know something about campus volunteerism, that person, and as a first generation college student going through like having one place to go, even just an email to contact about, hey, I'm really interested in food waste. Can you send me some information about somebody I can talk to, or a campus community person that, is working on this? That is a huge asset and is relatively low maintenance, because it's just kind of part of like all these people are bumping into other people just in starting these conversations. So I just want to note that that alone is a huge asset.
So while you're talking, we can advance to the last slide, which has that email address.
One quick insight about that is that we really leaned on student leadership early in the process, and that we never sure what is going to happen, but that instantly started more things happening than we could have done on our own. They started to happen spontaneously, and that really helped with managing the different, working on several fronts at once. And one thing I think I learned from myself getting a little bit of funding from the Mitchell Center there was the value of seed grants, that we don't need to do big things, but sometimes many little things with support, funding, and institutional backing can generate a lot of results. So student-led seed grants was very important.
So we're probably coming close to the end of our time. We may have time for one or two more questions. I want to move Shailene out of the way here. Sorry, Shailene. Just so that our brand new email address for mesh@maine.edu, which is where you can contact us, and we will be monitoring that and be able to, so you don't have to necessarily know any one of us, but you can still contact mesh@maine.edu, and we'll be monitoring that and get back to you. We have time for more questions, or where are we?
Yeah, you got.
About 5 minutes, yeah.
I just want to congratulate UMaine Dining on reaching 26%.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Time for 30 by 2030.
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe they could get crazy.
Yeah,
30
exactly.
by 25.
Go big.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, feel free to come up at the end and ask, or is there something up there? Go ahead. Can't quite read it, so you good.
It says, Maine is a Mason climate action plan. How might MeSH engage state climate action goals?
So again, I think we don't necessarily have the answer to this as the current MeSH, but I think MeSH is a place where that question can be put out as a place to get the information, to channel that information among different stakeholders on campus and off campus, and help generate that kind of interaction.
So I'm going to make a shameless plug. There's an organization called Maine Campuses Won't Wait. which is an organization of all of the higher education institutions in Maine. There's a representative from each, and they meet on a regular basis. And the goal of this organization is to align campuses with the Maine's climate action plan goals.
So for those who might not have heard Dan, there's a group called Maine Campuses Won't Wait,
Yes.
which aligns campus initiatives with the state action, with the state climate plan. So that's excellent.
Right?
Yeah, and again, just reminding everyone, if you have ideas or suggestions, or if you know, once we get the website up and going, or even before we get the website up and going, if you have suggestions or ideas for, you know, for the website, or things to include, we welcome input. So don't hesitate to send an email out, or questions, or any ideas. You know, we all have different expertises and we all have different experiences. So we welcome your input.
So I want to thank in particular Shailin and Dominique, who are graduates, you know, started this process when they were students, went away, and now they couldn't stay away. They're back and they're helping with this. Shailin, thank you so much. Dominique, so wonderful working with this whole team.
Thank you all.